Hey y'all, today let's make some salsa. I have made salsa for years and years and years. Some years it was pretty good. Some years it was not so good. But I've since, I wouldn't say perfected, but I have started making salsa this way, and every single year it's been great. And the trick is that I roast my vegetables. I don't have a step-by-step recipe per se. Like, I'm not going to tell you to use 20 tomatoes and 10 peppers and 4 cloves of garlic and things like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I do, and then you can take that and you can make it yours. So the first thing I do is I like to use a wide variety of tomatoes. I have Juliet's, I have some black cherries, I have some little Tomatos, I have some Brad's Atomic Grapes, I have a big orange slicer that I can't remember the name of, and some sun sugars. All of these work well. Even these little ones that nobody thinks you can do anything with other than put them in your mouth. You can roast these and you can use these in your salsa. And that's exactly what I'm gonna do. So what I do is I take a baking sheet, and I really like to use stoneware. It just seems to, I don't know, just make everything really nice and caramelized and delicious. And what I do also is I start cutting up the tomatoes in halves. Sometimes I quarter them. It doesn't really matter, as long as they kind of roast evenly on your pan. Earlier this season, I was gifted quite a bit of bell peppers, and they weren't going to last until time for salsa, because I make so much salsa that I have to do it in several days worth of batches, because I probably put up about 50 quarts, simply because I look at it as that gives me about a quart a week. And we always have taco night at least once a week, and by taco night we may do fajitas, we may do taco salad, we may do just tacos, burritos, enchiladas, chimichangas, all that. So having salsa is important for us, and I don't like to have to buy it, so I'd rather make it myself. So I'm going to do this, and this is my guide on here. I do about 80% tomato and 20% other. So that means, and I do a wide variety of peppers. I don't just do all jalapenos. I do jalapenos, I do shishito, I do banana peppers, Tabascos, whatever I have, and I do it. And yeah, I don't have gloves on because I'm terrible about wearing gloves, and my hands are so fat that I always kind of bust through the gloves anyways. So yeah, I'll probably touch my face in a little while and wish I had gloves, but that's just part of how it is. Y'all ever seen the movie Elf? You know, when he meets the guy named Francisco, and he just says it over and over and over again. Francisco. That's fun to say. That's how I feel about shishito. Anyways, so I'm going to continue cutting up my tomatoes. In every pan, this is what I do. I do, like I said, the majority, 80% of tomatoes, and then I do at least 1 onion, 3 or 4 or 6 cloves of garlic, and probably a good handful of peppers, like I don't know, maybe 4 or 5. And that's all dependent upon you, because it's your recipe. Now this is just our base layer. This is what we're going to roast. Once everything is roasted, we'll bring it out of the oven, and I usually roast this around, I don't know, around 375 to 400, depending on what your oven is like. And it takes close to an hour. Now, when you do roast it, it's going to just really take all those juices and it's going to just, I don't know, just make them explode into flavor. The flavor just, once you try this, you'll see it's just the way to do it. But it's really good. It just tastes so much better. It's not watery, it's thick and rich, and the sweetness comes out of all the vegetables, and it's just vibrant. But like I said, this will be roasted. The onions, the garlic, the tomatoes, the peppers, and then after this is roasted, we'll bring it out of the oven. We'll you can chop it up more, or you can puree it. That's what I usually do. I leave it kind of, I wouldn't say it's completely smooth, but it's fairly smooth. And then I add salt, I add cilantro, and I add a little vinegar and a little bit of sugar. And now, again, people go, oh my gosh, you add sugar? I'm telling y'all, it's a little bit. It's not like I'm making it sweet like a candy. I'm just adding a little bit of sugar because it seems to help bring out the flavors. It's not like I'm putting a cup or two per batch. I'm just putting a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these cut up, and then I'll show you what we do next. So I almost have everything on this pan, and I'll give you a view of it once I'm completely ready. And like I said, I'm gonna put it in the oven at about 375 for my oven, and I'm gonna roast it for about 45 minutes to an hour, however long it takes. Now I'll just tell you, there are days when I make this and there is absolutely no liquid on the bottom of the pan. And then there's times when I make this and there's quite a bit of liquid on the bottom of the pan. So what you want to do is you want to take and just pour that liquid off into a reserve bowl, because when you go and add everything back and add your seasonings and all that, if it's too thick, just add a little bit of that juice back. And that way you're not saturating it and making it watery if it doesn't need it. But a lot of times what happens is there are some juices left, but the majority just gets sucked up into those vegetables, and it just makes it super flavorful. So just a few more tomatoes here. And like I said, I really like to do a large variety of tomatoes, because if you just use one kind, it's kind of like one note. Just like an apple pie, when you make apple pie, you don't want to just use one apple. You use quite a few apples, different varieties of apples, because they all have different flavors, textures, and just, you know, kind of, I don't know, the notes, flavor notes that speak out when they're being cooked. And if you don't have garlic growing, or that you've grown and you've already picked, splurge and get some garlic. Don't just go buy the chopped up garlic in the jar, because when you put this in the pan and it roasts along with everything, man, y'all, roasted garlic is just one of those flavors that's just, there is just not much better. And so when you put it in this salsa, it's just delicious. Now this is the same way I make my pizza sauce or my spaghetti sauce, whatever. Pizza sauce is just a little bit thicker than a spaghetti sauce for me. But this is how I make it too. But it's just different vegetables. So anyways, we're almost there, and we'll get this in the oven, and then I'll show you what it looks like before and after. All right, this is the pan of deliciousness. Like I told you before, I would say it's probably 80% or more of tomatoes, and then we have our peppers, onions, and garlic also in here, and that's going to make up the other 20%. It's going to go into our oven. We'll roast it for almost an hour, and then I'll show you what it looks like again. So this has been roasting for a while. I don't feel that all the way done yet, but it's real close. And you can see there's not a lot of liquid here. So I'm just going to mix this around. See, because I'm getting a little bit dark over here on this edge. So I'm going to mix this around. Spread it back out. You know what? I think I might call that one done. Yeah. Now that I look at it, I think it is done. I was worried about the onions, but I believe they're ready. Look at that. So all this will go into a pot, and then we'll use a stick blender if you have a mixer, not a mixer, but a blender, or even like a Vitamix or anything like that. A real nice blender. It will make short work of those skins and everything. But I only have a stick blender, so all this will go straight into a pot, and then I'll stick blend it, and then I'll wait, and I won't add any of my sugar or salt or vinegar or anything like that until I get several pans worth in the pot. So here is 2 sheet pans worth, and you can see there was just a bit of liquid, so I left it in. I haven't added anything else except just a handful of cilantro, simply because I want to go ahead and blend that together. My blender broke, so I'm using a stick blender. It doesn't do as good, but it does fine. I'll mute this part so you guys won't have to listen. Okay, so this is my last batch that came out of the oven, and I don't know if you can tell or not. Let's see if I can scoop this by. You see that one's got quite a bit more liquid than the others, so I'm using this that is sort of like a sieve, and I'm going to drain that liquid out and add it to the pot. And then if I see that we need it, I'll just add some of this liquid in as well. Alright, so here are the only things I add to the salsa besides the vegetables itself. I add vinegar, a little sugar, salt, and cilantro. And I've told you before that I don't necessarily measure. So here is my good rule of thumb. Start smaller. You can always work your way up, but you cannot take away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with about a tablespoon of salt. Now realize this here is about a 4-gallon pot. We're not hardly halfway up. I'm also going to add a tablespoon of sugar. And I'm going to guess about a 1/2 cup of vinegar. Now I'm going to have to put you down, but I'm going to tear some more of this cilantro off and put it in the pot too. And now, like any good cook, you have to taste and see if it's good or not. And you can't taste salsa without a chip. It needs more salt because the flavors are not as punchy as I want them to be. And it's not that the flavors are not there, they just need to be enhanced with a little bit of salt. I think it needs a touch more vinegar as well. But other than that, I think it's really good. So I'm gonna add a bit more salt and a bit more vinegar, and then we'll try it again. So I added about another tablespoon of salt and about another, maybe another 1/4 cup of vinegar. Yep. That's it. And there you go. Make it yours. Make it how you like it. You want a little more sweet, add some more sugar. If you like a lot of cilantro, you add it. That's the beauty of this recipe. You can make it your own. Okay, so now that the salsa tastes the way we want it, the next thing we're going to do is get our jars prepared, get our lids warming, and get the hot water bath canner to a nice simmer. Now we're going to wipe the jar rims down. That's just a clean wet rag. I'm going to add the 4 jars lid and screw that down just fingertip tight, and this is ready for the canner. After you've added your lids and your rings, you process these in a water bath canner for 20 minutes. After that, remove them to a safe place so they have plenty of time, at least 12 to 24 hours, to sit and make sure the seal is solid. Then you can wipe them off, remove the ring, and get ready to store your jars on your pantry. Now, I did use for jars lids for this, and I'm very happy. I had pretty much 100% success on everything sealing. I'm thankful that they sent me some lids to try out, and I have enjoyed them. So thanks again for being here, you guys.